Let's get more analysis on this from Joe Siracusa, who is the Dean of Global Futures at Curtin University, and he joins me live from Perth in Australia. Professor, it's good to see you. Now, this trip is clearly close to Biden's heart, and he has a different place in Ireland, doesn't he?
Yes. Well, good to see you too. Look, I grew up on the south side of Chicago with a lot of Irish men and women. And I learned very close early when I was young what the problems were and how difficult it was for them. Keep in mind, before identity politics, Americans were ethnic Americans. Irish Americans were not treated very poorly. They were treated poorly, not very well when they got to America in the 1880s and 90s after the potato famines and the rest of it. And there were signs in Boston that said Irish and dogs stay off the lawn. And this all became terribly respectable with the election, of course, John Kennedy, and he visited Ireland and he sort of stoked up these great memories. You know, millions of Irish wound up in America, not because they had money, it's because they were poor. And so a lot of Americans wax romantically and lyrically about the family's ancestry in Ireland, and it's a good feel-good movement. You know, in America, March 17th is still St. Patrick's Day. It's a big deal in many places. But the real reason that President Biden is there, he's trying to repair the Good Friday Agreement. Your package said that it resolved the conflict. Well, not really. What it did was to stop people killing each other. But the conflict has never been resolved because the Irish and the Protestants, the Unionists or Loyalists, and the Free Irish, those who want to be part of the state of Ireland, they've never reconciled and they've never shared power properly with each other. And it shows all kinds of problems of fraying and breaking down. So Biden is there, you know, to enjoy himself, to reconnect with his Irish connections when he gets over the border. But in Northern Ireland, he's there to sort of repair the damage. And also, the reason he's not going to the Queen's Charles's coronation is because it's not a very Irish thing to do. You know, he's making common cause with his with the Irish Republic. You know, they wouldn't regard that as particularly cool, as a matter of fact.
Why do you think the Good Friday peace agreement failed to unite the nationalists and the unionists?
Oh, because they've been killing each other for about 40 years. And of course, Northern Ireland is built on the slaughter of the British, of the Irish there over hundreds of years. I mean, these things go deep. I mean, these are deep-running animosities, and it takes 3, 4, 5 generations. Look how long the Americans fought the Civil War after the Civil War was over, or anybody's Civil War. It takes generations to forget all those things. And of course, the older generation is quite bitter about being left out with the Brexit, when Britain left Brexit. And, you know, they feel like they're second-class citizens. And keep in mind that Northern Ireland today has a majority of Northern Irish today are Catholic. 25 years ago, they were not. So, you know, if the majority wants to opt for a union with Ireland, the Protestants can't do anything about it except revert to violence. But that violence just simmers below the surface. Right. You know, as I say, what the agreement did was it stopped the killing, but it did not resolve the conflict.
You mentioned Brexit. Has the recent deal that Rishi Sunak struck with the EU, is that deal going to make things better or worse for Northern Ireland?
Well, I think it should sort of improve a little bit because they have access to the British market and unfettered access to the European market. Should put them in pretty good stead. You know, if it disadvantages them, you know, they will go back to Downing Street and complain about it. By the same token, you know, there's a lot of catching up to do in Northern Ireland. While that war was going on, while that civil war was going on for years and years, business stayed away, investments stayed away. You know, the Irish Republic got all the business and all the attraction in the international commercial area. So, you know, there's a lot of catching up. There's a lot of places in Northern Ireland that will never catch up. And there are people who, say, have these long memories. And as I say, it takes a long time. And of course, there were no reconciliation commissions. That is, there was no justice. People killed people on street corners. They kneecapped them on their way home from work and things like that. And nobody served a day in jail after the Good Friday thing. So, you know, while we had peace, we didn't have justice. And for a lot of Northern Irish, and for the Irish too, they want some justice, and they're not going to get it. And so they have to live in what we all live in, an imperfect world.
Okay, Joe Siracusa, thank you so much for joining us here again on TRT World.
Okay.